All right, here we go. All right, 1, 2, 3. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to episode 312 of Control Talk Now, the Smart Buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending April 29th, 2019. I am joined, as usual, by your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, new and improved, Ken Sinclair. Otto, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Stepping in the big shoes of the man from Pittsburgh.
Well, that's right. And for our listeners out there, this is your final chance to win that $50 Amazon gift card. We have a contest that's going on, which is called Where in the World is Ken Smyers? And Ken Otto, I'm going to let you play it right here. So here are your choices. Number one, Ken Smyers is being contracted out by GSA to help them do a deep dive in cybersecurity vis-a-vis building controls. That's choice one. Choice two, Ralph Lauren, and this is a little known fact, Kenny used to do some modeling. Ralph Lauren is doing a photo shoot for their summer collection in Napa Valley, and Ken is one of the models there. He's actually out doing a photo shoot in Napa Valley. Choice number three, Ken has been hired by an undisclosed manufacturer at an undisclosed location to help them revamp their building automation control line. Choice number four, Ken is on a mission from God. Choice number five, all of the above. And choice number six, none of the above. Do you want to venture a guess there, Otto?
Well, the one where he was helping redesign someone's system seemed fairly natural for the kinds of stuff he does. I think I'll take that guess.
That's your guess, and I tell you what, Ken, I'm neither going to confirm or deny that because this is really a game that our community is playing. You'll be watching this on the YouTube channel. Just reach out in comments. The first person that gets it right gets a $50 Amazon gift card and a really swell prize. And Ken, I'm really good at really swell prizes, so we'll hit on that for sure. But dude, thanks so much for stepping in and filling in for Kenny while he is gone. But listen, lots going on. You and I are going to be doing a lot of traveling as well as Kenny. And but let's start with the theme of your May issue, which is coming out here in the next couple of days.
Great, thanks, Eric. The theme of the May issue is the other interesting thing is it's going on early because Jane and I are on our way to ControlCon in Detroit. Scotty Cochran has graciously invited us, and he's even got me as a keynote, which I've never been a keynote in my life, so that'll be pretty interesting. But
we'll see how that goes, man.
Yeah, I'm glad that you let me practice here a little bit. Anyway,
yeah.
Anyway, our theme is connecting creative communities, and I think it's not really new news. It's what we've been doing. Certainly, what Automated Buildings and Control Trends has been doing is the mainstay of what we do, what we provide. But we're kind of expanding that a little bit and having ourselves take a big picture look at what really sticks with us is in this industry. And I've done in the automated buildings. First of all, I've been at this 50 years in building automation, and the last 20 years as automated buildings. And we did a bunch of these flyovers where we could actually take 20 years and in a couple of minutes you could drift over them. And what is the obvious message that comes out of that? And it is that the people are the constants. The people and their communities are the only thing that actually keeps on keeping on.
Right. So another way to say that would be technologies come and go, but people are here forever.
Forever. That's right. You take an example of someone we know really well, like John Petsey. You see him in the early days with Andover telling us that Ethernet is going to change the world. And then you see him reappear with Tritium and tell us that Niagara Framework is going to change the world. and then you see him go with the tritium company and change the world, and then you see him off with Sky Foundry, being very frank all the way along. And so we just see these people reappearing, and of course then Haystack. So there you go, in a 20-year period, he shifted through some pretty major plays for our industry, but is still involved. And I think if you look at everyone's life, it starts to kind of play out that way. So that's kind of the message. And so I think the message back to systems integrators and master systems integrators and just the industry in general is that we need to invest more in our people and invest more in our connection communities. I don't think we really understand how powerful they are, and how probably the bigger thing is what they talk about is the stickiness, and the stickiness of having strong connection communities is amazing. If you support BACnet, if you support you know.
Well, hang on, Otto.
Yeah.
I got to hop in here for a minute, because you are saying a whole lot, and I think we need to break down and do a deeper dive on some of these things. So could not agree more about the people. I think the people at the end of the day, you know, we've talked a lot on the show about, you know, technology and automated intelligence and all this kind of stuff that might sort of uproot some of the people. And I want to deal with that a little bit later in the show, but you know, the whole concept of the people, and I think, you know, you would probably agree that the HVAC building automation controls community is a close-knit community, right? I mean, it's kind of the same players. They change companies. You gave a great example with John Petsy. And there's knowledge that can only come from experience, right? And so you take the fact that it's a people-based business at the end of the day, because the products will come and go, but the people can stay the same. And they do. I mean, most people don't leave this industry for other industries. At least that's been my experience. But now you talk about the fact that we're really in the information age. I mean, you could say data, you know, we talk about data being the new gold. So it really is about usable information. And we're also being inundated with so much information that there's no way that you or I or any one individual is going to be able to process it all and figure out how to make it usable. Then you put in the concept of synergy. So your theory about the groups and the collaboratoriums makes so much sense. Not only is it, I think, a natural evolution, but I think it's a very practical one. Agree or disagree?
Very, very much agree. And the other thing we're seeing too is there's a bunch of other movements that are changing our world real fast. And of course, the openness movement to as we move into the IT world, everyone points out that some of these things aren't really all that open, but they've got such buy-in that, you know, once you get over a few 10 million or 100 million or something, I don't care if it's a standard or not, it's worthwhile taking a look at. So we're starting to be pushed by those communities, and we have to interface with them. We thought IoT in the beginning, we thought IoT would take us over, and it's become, I think, pretty clear is that what has to happen is we have to become IoT, because we have to drag with us those the experiences of our communities and basically make that part of it. But there's a lot of interfacing that needs to go on. As always, I'm on my bandwagon and saying we've got to grow younger. And how do we do that? We do that through our younger mentors, and we need to grow. We have to get people at a greater rate than we are. We have to attract the minds of the industry. We have to make our industry much more exciting than it is. And
well, how do you think we're doing with that, Ken?
I think we're struggling, but I think we're making progress. I'm extremely pleased. I've got an interview in our May issue, and we've got Brad, our young gun, has a new employee that is a young person who explains her path as an engineer to end up at SES Consulting, and how she didn't really intend to be an engineer, and how she went through education, and she's struggling trying to find something that can excite her, and something where she feels she can make a change. And it turns out that SES is that. And I think we need to tell those success stories. The other thing that I'm on about is the idea that we actually have a tremendous amount of women working in our industry, and there's an opportunity for them for us to recreate their jobs and basically put them closer to like let them own projects, let them do some of the customer relationships, let them work with some of these concepts such as building emotion, which are a little touchy-feeler, a little softer, and also allow them to do that from where they are, using the work anywhere kind of thinking. So that's sort of some of the stuff we're going to chat about in Detroit, because these guys have got me pretty excited about what's going on up there.
Well, and I kind of love the way you just shine the spotlight on things that most of us don't have time to stop and think about, right? But I think they're very pertinent, very relative to our industry. I mean, Kenny Smyers and I call you the Notre Dame of the industry. It's like you're always seeing farther out than the rest of us, and 9 times out of 10, you're spot on. So I encourage our audience, when Ken's talking about these things, definitely tune in, because even though it might not seem relevant now, my experience of having the pleasure of knowing you over the last 8 or 9 years or so, where we've done interviews and sort of tracked automated buildings, I mean, you tend to be spot on with this. But again, I mean, you identified the fact that we got a lot of tribal knowledge, a lot of people leaving the building, so to speak. You've been an advocate of younger people, women, and anybody else that can come in and help fill that void. And what I hear you really saying now, and I think it's, how do we create a form or a process to be more effective with the communities, right? And I think the last episode we talked about, was it the practice community? Would you explain to our audience a little bit about that again, and sort of see how that relates? Because you got the people, but then it's not just having the people; it's about putting them in groups or combinations where you get a synergistic effect, and they can create or understand at a rate far greater than they might be able to individually, with the exception of you and Brad White.
Yeah, last month's article, the community of practice, and that went back, that came out of AHR in the session we did with Therese, and it was Therese that brought it out, and she actually has clarified that, just a minute, I didn't invent this, I just brought it to the table. And but in my book, you get full points for bringing stuff to the table, because there's a whole lot of stuff out there that has been around for a long time that we should be using and we're not using. But anyway, it's just a concept, and it says that when we organize ourselves in a community of practice, we tend to support each other. We tend to work and interact a lot better. And I think if we look back, certainly Control Trends is a community of practice. All the people buy your products, and they basically appreciate the information. It's part of our education. It's part of our. It turns out to even be part of our social life. It becomes a community, but it's a community of practice. It's the things we are doing, and of course, the May issue just builds on that, and it says, okay, once you got that kind of concept in your mind, just roll your eyes a little wider, and and shake your head a little more, and now start thinking about some of our big communities of practice, which would be folks like the systems integrators, the master systems integrators, and Scott's ControlCon. That's really his community of practice. And then we move off into the haystack, which is the next event rolling down, and for most of us in the industry. And it is an actual, I use it as my glowing example of a community of practice, because we were all in the middle of nowhere, chugging along, and again, this person who had been involved with our industry for a long time and had to basically move through a bunch of technologies, said, here's the next technology we need to look at. We need to solve this naming problem. Let's look at haystack. And he gathered around him a whole bunch of a community of practice of people who actually believed that that was a good way to go. And so they actually created this community so we can all roll our eyes back and we can actually see and understand the creation of that community. And I think that's a pattern that we all need to think about moving forward, because we need to create new communities of practice. One of the big themes is going to be in Detroit. Scotty has an article on in our May issue, and it's about location services and how important that's going to be. And that one starts to show up it a little bit at Haystack, but really hits you on the head at Realcomm if you take a look at how many supporters, sponsors, exhibitors, I guess is the correct word, are there. I mean, there is just a myriad of folks that are selling products that are based on or close to location services. And this is kind of a new field for us. So using that as an example, it's something that both you and I have got to get to learn more about. And the best way to do that is to connect ourselves to their connection communities. And when we're hiring people, what I'm also expanding this out to is that may be more our criteria than if they have an engineering degree or they have eons of expertise in pneumatics like me. But they have eons of experience in a new technology that we don't well know, and they bring with them their connection communities. Their value is enhanced. That making any sense?
Yeah, no, it's making a lot of sense. And also, what I hear you saying is that sort of having the social skills, right, and maybe more so with the newer people, the digital social skills. I mean, back when we came along, I mean, I know when you hired people and I hired people in the early days, you know, part of what you looked at, well, how are they going to get along with the rest of the team, right? But now it almost seems like you have to have the digital social skills as well. And, you know, I'm reading about companies now, for example, that, you know, are collaborating. Obviously, email's been around for a while, but they're collaborating with DMs and chats, right? And, you know, instant messaging and stuff like that. So there's speed with that connection, but there's also got to be a predilection or, you know, a willingness to adopt that, which I think, to your point, the younger people naturally do that. But you know, some of the more mature younger people like me and you, sometimes that's a bit of a challenge. But you're saying that that's part of it, you know, having the digital social skills.
Very much so. And I think that is putting way more emphasis on my plea to our industry to grow younger. Um, it was funny. I think maybe on the last one I was pushing words around and I used the word digital immigrant. And I was trying to use it on the wrong end of the spectrum. And when I basically Googled it and started reading what is a digital immigrant, you and I are digital immigrants. We don't do digital. We basically came from a different world, and we're trying to exist in this digital world. We're struggling. And
Yeah.
then there's the digital natives, which like Brad and his people. And then we've got the new folks who are just immersed in it and digitally enhanced. They can't function without digital. And so what's happening is as we start to grow younger and as old digital immigrants come to this new country and we're trying to learn to speak this language, and we go out and we find a digital native who speaks the language reasonably well, but really what we're looking for is their connection to these digital augmented kids that are
Right.
basically grew up with an iPhone for a soother, and so we need to get connected to them, and that they're the people that are going to lead us into augmented reality and into artificial intelligence and stuff. So there's a
Well,
lot of stuff going on.
I've got a story to tell you about that because, as you know, I've got she's 6 now, daughter, Evelyn Grace. And Evelyn has started writing books. She can't write yet. She can't read yet. But what she's done, Ken, is she's figured out on her mom's phone that she can press a button and it will record. So
Mhm.
she tells stories, it gets recorded. And then she's figured out how to wirelessly print them. I mean, at 6 years old, she's printing these little books that she writes. And again, she can't write yet. Physically, she's learning to write, and she, you know, is learning to spell. She's in kindergarten, for crying out loud. But to your point, this is somebody that on her own figured out she can pick up her mom's phone, hit the record button, and
Mhm.
record books. It's pretty phenomenal.
But and yet you bring her into your office and you say, "Oh, you want access to a printer?" And she says, "What's a printer? What's a
Yeah,
printer?" Or like,
yeah,
yeah, like
no,
I
right.
don't understand that process. I know how to do it, but I don't know how to do it your way. That's a
But
very good example because, and we're seeing that on, and but okay, now the other thing is our future, our industry's future and growth depends on how we get connected to those folks and bring them in. And what are one of our problems is we're this closed shop industry uh, who who basically hasn't hasn't really appealed to the public, and we're starting to get more appeal as global warming is, and the big buildings are a big problem of that. So we're getting, so the young people are looking at us as well, maybe if I can help these guys that are struggling with these big buildings, I can actually make a change in the world. So there's starting to be some, but we need a much better image. We need to be, our industry is actually becoming quite exciting. And the other thing is where it was an incredibly closed industry, that you try and bring a new idea into our industry and we'd clobber you. And now I think we're a little more receptive. So if you've got a new phone app, or you've got a new way of doing something that we never even thought of, using phones or even using deviceless technologies, which are starting to evolve faster than phones, and start to use voice as a platform, and all of these things that are kind of kicking around in an IT world, they need to be brought to our meetings. But we need to somehow have a campaign to let the industry know that we're a changed industry, and we're looking for new ideas, and we're growing younger.
Well, I got to tell you something. It was like, and you and I have both been on the campaign, as well as Kenny Smyers, to attract younger people in the industry. And we're trying to put a spotlight on it because it's one of the few industries that you can actually come in, not be in a cubicle farm. If you really want to have an impact on the planet's footprint, I mean, you can. And not only that, you can document it because we got the analytics programs and everything else too. It's one of the few industries that I know that's left. That if you got any talent in any gumption, meaning you're willing to learn, you can pretty much write your own ticket. It's challenging, it's fun. And, we've created the Young Guns Award as a way to sort of, put recognition on these younger folks. But, like I told you before, I will know that you and I have done our job and Kenny Smyers have done our jobs when a young person, and we'll just use the male example, is able to go into a bar and you got a rap musician, you got a movie star, and you got them, and you got a really nice looking, attractive lady, and she walks up to the rap star and goes, "What do you do?" "I'm a rap star." "What do you do?" An actor." "What do you do?" "I'm a billionaire." "What do you do?" "I'm in the smart buildings control business." And she goes, "You're the one I want." We will have arrived when we do that, Ken. But I do. Go ahead.
Actually, I was just hoping, how do I share a picture here? Maybe it'll be two.
You should have a share screen down at the bottom, but if you don't, we can go find a 4-year-old and they can help us with this.
Yeah, that's what I need.
Should be down at the bottom of your screen. It should say share.
Okay, I
Not
think I
yet.
clicked it. Oh, there it is. It's asking me, what do I want to share? Here we go. Sorry about that.
No worries at all,
Should have
man.
been should have been ready to do this.
That's all right. I'll let you know when it comes up. There you go.
There you go. So there's a new energy engineer. So I
Oh, do you
think
think
what
do you think we could get her to come on the show?
I think,
I,
yeah,
I think our viewership would go way up. So she's the one that Brad hired, huh?
yeah. But anyway, if you, and there's some other words that came out of this were kind of neat too. The title, if you can read it, it says "Job Crafting
Yep.
Unleashes New Engineering Talent." I
Nice.
hadn't even heard that word, and that came from Brad's uh, engagement specialist, which he has, and they're basically trying to have a better interface with their clients and stuff. But this whole idea of job crafting, uh, letting the person come in and almost define the job that they're going to do, where they're going to work. So and her title is eventually a job came around that combined into all my passions and allowed me to work in an industry where I felt like I was truly making a difference. I mean, that's the words, but we need to get that kind of a message out more to the industry.
Well, what we should do, Ken, you and I collectively, along with Kenny Smyers, is we should get, people like Stephanie, after they've had a little bit of time in the industry, we should get them to come on and she's already done it in your publication, but they ought to become the poster children for our industry. We ought to do some video testimonials and things like that and to attract people in. But that's
Right.
very cool. Brad White is one of the most innovative guys. I know he's one of your mentors. I've got a couple of 30-year-old mentors. So they're getting too old for me. I'm looking for a new mentor, somebody in their 20s. If you want to mentor me, I'm available.
Yeah. Okay. But then, yeah. So anyway, we got to get more of that information out. Actually, I guess that's we got going with the young guns. I think we have to now. Maybe for Orlando, we have to have the younger guns or something like that.
The baby guns.
Baby guns.
But hey, Ken, I do want to argue the other side of this a little bit, because although I do agree with you that, we definitely need to bring the younger folks in and mentor them. Okay. I think there's the younger people need to be mentored by some of us too. And I've been reading a book that I encourage our community to check out. It just really opened my mind. The book is called Deep Work by a guy named Cal Newport. And what Cal is arguing, and in the book, part of the premise in the book is that, among other things, one of the themes is, are we just doing busy work? Or are we actually doing deep, productive work? And what he's basically saying is that, we're so distracted by so many things, our email box, our text, our social media, that we do a shallow work really, really well, getting things done like emails and stuff like that. But deep work really requires, taking a time, undistracted chunks of time and going very, very deeply into a particular subject or a particular endeavor, a field. Now, what's interesting about this to me, one of his premises, because, you and I and Kenny Smyers have talked about, with artificial intelligence coming and all, is it going to be the end of the facilities manager? Is it going to be the end of this and the end of that? And what he's basically saying is, he's saying that, he thinks a lot as technology advances and artificial intelligence advances and stuff like that, a lot of the people that do the shallow work might be susceptible to being replaced by machines or bots or whatever. What he's arguing is that the people that can do deep work, okay, which includes concentrating on something for a long period of time, are always going to be in demand. And one of the final things I'll say about this, and I'd like to get your comments, is that the skills that it takes to do shallow work, i.e. being able to multitask, focus on a bunch of different things at the same time, the social media and stuff like that, that if you do too much of that, you lose the ability to focus and go deep. So it's almost like, at the very least, if you're coming up, you want to be able to do the shallow work, but you also want to set a time, a couple hours a week, where you hone that muscle, be able to go really deep and concentrate for a couple hours at a time without distraction. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think I very much agree with it. My method of dealing with that is I get up in the middle of the night when nobody's around and do my deep thinking and writing. Yeah. I can't write when there's interruption and stuff. You have to have, basically, it's going to be quiet for 2 or 3 hours so you can put together a concept, and even just head off in a bunch of directions and read a bunch of pieces of the internet that are coming together, and just trying to assemble any of those thoughts. So yes, but I think the other thing we need to do is to refocus our workforces, and this is how I think we'll grow younger, is that we start taking some of those folks that are doing that shallow stuff and bring them into the deep end. And yeah. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how well they can cope with it. And again, the remoteness. One of the problems with the women workforce is they have a much better handle on balance and how their life is balanced, and basically just, I mean, in the final analysis, this isn't like food, it's just a job. So, but that being said, but then when it comes to things like ownership, they're extremely good at. So if in fact they get attached to a project and they own a project, they will certainly work with that client. They tend to have better people skills generally, especially than our software people and our hardware people. They sometimes lack social
Social graces, yeah.
skills. And that was one thing that Stephanie noticed, is that she said, these guys don't want to go out of the office and talk to the client. I'd rather go out and talk to the client. And she's a social person, so she wants to basically make the client, why isn't the client happy, and go out and talk to them. That's the only way you're really going to find that out. And so she's almost a bridge between maybe your deep thinkers. Maybe that's what we need. Maybe we need an agent that
No,
basically.
dude, look, you just coined another phrase. I don't know if you realize it or not, the bridge.
Uh,
And I think, this has been around for a while. I mean, I know you started out doing service and sales, so that being able to talk to people is really, really a key skill, and not everybody can do it. And
mhm,
especially in a world where we're growing up, 180 characters, 142 characters or whatever, I mean, we get used to that. Somebody that can actually be the bridge and communicate. I mean, I think that might be the highest paying skill here in the next several years. So I like the bridge, man. People ask me what I do. I say, I'm the bridge.
mhm.
You're the bridge too.
Yeah,
You're the
yeah,
Canadian bridge. I'm the U.S. bridge. We're the bridge.
that's right.
Ken Smyers, Ken Sinclair, and Eric Stromquist are the bridges.
Yeah,
Think about it,
definitely, definitely.
we kind of are in a way, right? With your publication and my publication, because what we're doing is we're assimilating information, curating information that we think is useful, and then we're bridging it, hopefully in a way that's easily consumable to the people that don't have time to necessarily curate it.
Hmm. But what we need is somebody who reaches out to people who would potentially be bridges between our social side, the people in our buildings, and what it is we're doing, and also that we make that reach out attractive enough that that folks want to go into it. The young folks now, as they come out, they're looking at autonomous vehicles. That's pretty exciting. And what I'm trying to spin is, whoa, have you thought about autonomous buildings?
Right.
And I mean, because we've got all exact same problems we've got to solve. The autonomous vehicles are going to run into the autonomous vehicles the autonomous vehicle is going to run into our autonomous buildings. And we had Sudha on a
Right.
while back there, and we're talking about that. She's got a program going now where she's offering a free trial for folks to kind of get involved in what she's pitching. And I think there is value for us as an industry to try and get our heads around thinking like autonomous vehicle folks. And obviously, as we start to move into our smart cities, which is just another connection community we have to learn about, and we probably need people in our company who are well connected to the communities of smart cities. And we need people who are connected to the communities of autonomous vehicles. We need to have all these tentacles going out. As we put more of those tentacles out and we become a more diverse, solid company that is sort of happening and understands some of the problems of the day, I think what we'll do is we'll raise our presence to these young people that, in
Well,
fact, I hadn't even thought of those guys. A lot of them would never think that we would ever even be in that business. Automated buildings, that's pretty boring stuff.
Well, what I'm thinking almost is when you're saying this, it's almost like you talk about a group, a practice group. I mean, imagine if everybody chipped in some money, and then all of a sudden you're watching the equivalent of Game of Thrones or something on TV, and this TV show is brought to you by the Smart Building and HVAC Controls community, where you have the chance to do this, this, or this. I mean, it's how else can you, or running advertisements in non-trade publications, if you're going to really try to attract people in, seems like that might be a route to go, right?
Yeah, well, I think again, the communities, if we look back, it's kind of funny, this all kind of came together as we started talking about these communities of practice. I'd been part of them and used them all my life, but I'd never kind of thought of how we need to highlight them a lot more. And I think the community of practice is also the way that we will recruit. because if you are kind of interested in any piece of this, whether it be machine vision or whether it be location services, if that kind of intrigues you or you've kind of caught that as something you haven't thought about, you start following these communities. And if the communities end up through one of their members leading you back to our industry, I think that's the way things work these days, um, rather than us reading and being. In the old days, we used to watch TV, and we bought whatever ads they put on there. That's what we bought. But we don't do that anymore. We go and we look at stuff, and they serve us ads that basically suit the
Well,
places we
yeah,
look. So everything is.
right. But to your point, maybe it's an internet campaign on Instagram or whatever. But my question for you would be, I mean, if you were to go to a career day at colleges, how many people in college even know that this field exists and that what it's about?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's like even the Ashery booth, which is it's always there at most of our community events, and it's when you go there, they're talking at a pretty high level. It's hard to attract the young minds, I think. So we just need to do a whole lot better job of that. We need to show them. Actually, the location services, I think, has a lot of sex appeal when they actually, and they get it real quick. They say, well, what we're really doing is we're tracking the people through the buildings, like Google Maps tracks cars and traffic and how all that information's used. And they say, ah, wow, that's neat. I hadn't even thought of doing that, and then, of course, once you do that, then there's all of these technologies that peel off of that. In both the May issue and in the article that we wrote for Connected Contractor, uh, in at the end of it, I start talking about Realcomm, and I point out the amazing amount of companies. They have like 40 or 50 companies that I've never heard of. And I
No,
pride myself in this
yeah.
industry that I try to keep track of, new companies. And, usually I go to an event and there's usually 10 or something, but there's just a myriad of people who are selling services that you and I haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
We need to talk about them. The other thing that became real obvious when I started, what I did is I actually went to every one of the exhibitors at Realcomm, IBCon, and tried to figure out what's their play, what are they doing, how do they make money, how are they fitting in to our industry, why are they at a buildings event, and it was an amazing eye opener to see the different approaches they're taking coming into our turf.
Well, what were some of the reasons, Ken? Let me interrupt you. What were some of the reasons? What were some of the reasons that you heard, and what were some that surprised you?
Well, location services and just basically tracking, uh, what do they call it? Just basically occupancy sensing, and those are become big things. And what this is the crossover that we've been looking for. The crossover. Uh, we always talked about the 330, 300 rule,
Mm-hmm.
and we wanted to get over into that 300 rule. And we were still trying to do it with energy, and then we started, boy, maybe if we can move the blinds up and down, we can catch their attentions. But location services, basically saying where the people are and then starting to react to where they are and what they want to do. That starts to open this next thought of autonomous building. So the whole dynamic, I think, is changing. It's becoming a lot more exciting. But in the final analysis, don't fear, all you control trenders and automated building folks, because all that's really going to do is put more emphasis back on providing the correct conditioning and control and a better interface. We're not going to get by with that 1980 DDC system. We're going to have a faster communications and stuff. So it's our industry is going to go crazy, and it already has gone crazy, but you haven't seen nothing yet. It's going to
Nice.
you know, so all of these pieces are fitting together. The other piece that was in there that just blew me away that I hadn't thought so much about is the wireless. We again, this is an issue that we grew up in a wireless world. We were excited that we sort of understood Ethernet, and we said, "Wow, and Ethernet's better than RS-485." Yeah, wow, this is great stuff. And then we kind of came with the IT folks, and they started talking about security and all these things. So we kind of grew into that. Now what's happening with G5 coming is the whole wireless thing is becoming a very serious contender to wire. So now we're actually seeing, and at the Realcomm, there's a lot of talk about the wireless systems in the building. And so now should our devices, can we afford to put a wire connection on our devices, or do our devices just simply become wireless? And as the OEM pieces of our industry move into the building, do they just wake up wireless? They find themselves, the person now at the factory is in control of their device, and they have that connection. They also do their analytics to see how the client is using it. It's just a whole new world of how we do this. We get this. We've got the other concept that's getting kicked around, the PoE, power over Ethernet, and some are touting that as, well, this is the solution. We'll bring the power with the wired internet, with the wired network connection, and then, but now they've raised the question: what if there is no network connection? It brings up a whole bunch of other issues about how do we have to own the airways. I think that's a different concept for us.
Well, and then you start bringing in how are the government's going to make money off of it, because that's got to be a concept that's eventually going to come in. So it's like there's a saying, Ken, there's nothing changes but the changes.
Yeah.
Boy, it just seems like we're getting a lot, which is why, I encourage our community, definitely check out automatedbuildings.com, because, as you can tell, Ken Sinclair stays on top of the changes. And if you want to look out into the future a little bit, this is a great publication to check out. But what else do you have in the May issue, Ken, that people can look forward to?
Um, Lots of stuff.
So much stuff that it's hard to just pick one out, right?
Yeah, it actually is. But generally, we're talking about the focus is on the building of bringing the communities together, and the 3 events, because that's sort of the next big thing in my life. Is I'm off to ControlCon, and then I'm off to Haystack, and then I'm off to
Realcomm.
Realcomm, and we're basically involved in all of those shows in some way. Uh, at Realcomm, we're talking about the user interface, and there I was able to change their words to autonomous interactions, and I think these are some words that we need to have to start changing.
a new meaning for AI, right?
That's right. Very
Artificial
much so.
intelligence or autonomous interactions. I love it. Maybe you should go. Maybe you should call autonomous interactions AX, right?
Yeah.
Come together.
Well, yeah, no, AX would be valuable. AX would be autonomous user experience,
There you go.
which is actually your goal. So that's exactly where you're going with that. But maybe that's it too. Is if I always loved the architectural industry, because every time I was on a new architectural project, there was like 10 new words, like, whether it be fenstration or, some
Fenstration. That sounds like that's obscene, Ken, man.
yeah.
But you do love the words, though, man. You come up with some great words. What was the one you had? Co-competition or co-competition?
Yeah.
So what we want to publish on Control Trends is an Automated Buildings Ken Sinclair dictionary for those who because you do come up with the best words, the most descriptive words, which is a great thing. Well, listen, May issues coming out next couple of days, so be sure to check that out.
It'll actually be online this afternoon.
Oh, this afternoon. Okay, put automatedbuildings.com.
Yep.
Now, listen, you're filling in for Kenny Smyer, so we got to cover a couple of extra posts here. So you good with that? Can you hang around and help me get this post? Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen. And this is where you kind of come up with really intelligent stuff that I don't know about. Let me see.
This is based on the fact I can read.
No, I got you. Okay, so let me do this, and then I got to come in here, and we're going to go You know, a teacher of mine once said, Ken, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, at least at first.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to watch me do this poorly, at least at first, because I can't see this because that's in the way. Let me move this out of the way. All right, let's see what this does. All right. But man, this has been fun. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And your guess was that Ken Smyers is away, sequestered by a manufacturer, and that
Yeah.
manufacturer. Okay, here we go. So you can see my screen right now, right?
I can.
Okay.
Gotta slow down a bit if I have to read, but.
So here was the last episode, 311, where episode 312. First
Okay.
post of the week we had was Smart Building Gold strikes every 2 years, and we're talking about data and making it usable, and we're talking about Haystack Connect, which we've already mentioned before. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm going to be there. I'm looking forward to it. Lots of new stuff going on there. The Pitch Fest, I think, is going to be good. One of our advertisers and yours as well as Contemporary Control, and they're going to show us their Raspberry running haystack, which I think is really impressive, and I think that's probably going to have a big effect on the industry.
Well, cool. And listen, we didn't talk about this last week, but this was one of my favorite. Great conversation between two of our favorite people, you and Suda. Let's take a look at that real quick, and maybe you can break this down for our community a little bit, what you guys were talking about, because I didn't understand it.
It was IoT Day, which is I belong to the Internet Council, and it's a great resource for me. This is where I get. It's my my connection community that I bring all these wonderful ideas to you that you wonder how did that old guy think that up? Well, he didn't. He was basically talking to these people, and they've implanted that idea, and certainly Suha's one of those kind of folks.
She is
So anyway,
amazing.
so we're just chatting about the collision of autonomous interaction in buildings and basically how that relates to her field. And she has some a program going right now where you can actually engage in her program for free for a few weeks. If you go to our Twitter site, you can click on it there and you can get the details about it.
Cool.
Or go to Suha's site.
Very, very cool. Okay. And then we have Realcomm Ibecon's Smart Building Integrators Summit. We'll be there too. And that's on Wednesday, June 12th in Nashville, which is going to be.
And actually, yeah, so I'm actually the moderator on the user interface.
Very cool. Good.
And actually, of interest, basically, Scott is organizing the systems integrator session. And he allowed me to be the moderator, but he said, I want to be on your panel. So obviously he wants to control what I'm going to say about user experience, but I know he's big on location services. And I think we're going to see some exciting stuff in Detroit.
We are. And then a good friend of mine and yours, George Thomas, his company Contemporary Controls has some new products that came out, which are really awesome. So you can check those out on Control. We're not going to tell you what those are. You just got to go check it out. It's definitely worth taking a read.
Mm-hmm.
And then I wanted to hit this post for sure. PID tuning constants, Ken, because you've tuned a few loops in your day, as I have. And a lot of people out there weren't kind of sure how to do it. And you didn't know how to copy the Mona Lisa at my house, did you? But were you a proportional band or a gain guy back in the day?
Actually, we used to write our own controllers. And because what we found is a lot of the processes we had weren't proportional, and they're mostly time-based. And so we would write a lot of our own controllers. I mean, the worst example was those in-pitch motion fans. I don't know if you ever worked with those. They had a hysteresis that was just unbelievable. You'd push them, and then they'd finally lurch and the vanes would move and it would make a great big change. And if you were trying to control static pressure, it was just chaotic. And it was a fellow from the UK that helped write some of the first algorithms we used. And we were actually able to control what could never be controlled before. So I actually have several where proportional and
Derivative
Basically
for
dialed
sure.
right out.
Yeah, good for you, man. Good for you. Well, that is kind of as much an art as it is a science, I think. So, and what part of the gist of this video is if you're doing HVAC and you're doing chill water valves and stuff like that, you usually just have to go with the proportional and integral. You get on an industrial side, you got to put that derivative in, or something like Ken Sinclair is talking about. So, Ken, I'm just realizing, man, I had this totally wrong. We're actually on episode 313 of Control Talk now, the Smart Building.
Oh, that doesn't sound lucky.
Well, that's all right. But hey, I can't think of a better guy to do this. And listen, I remembered to turn the recorder on, so I think we are pretty lucky here.
That's
Got
probably
20.
why Smyers stepped out. He didn't want to. He was worried about that.
Yeah,
313.
he's pretty smart about that. Then we had the 20 days until Haystack Connect. Got another link you can get on there. Then we put up a series on indoor air quality.
Super.
Which is really good. That's a big part of it. And what the cool thing about it is, it's actually 5 episodes. So if you go down here and click, you can get all 5 episodes.
Great.
As you can see that, because man,
Yeah.
you got to have the training, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know who that ugly guy they put on the cover is, but what? So, and then we sort of wrapped it out here with the last one was Siemens. Man, I mean, I know you played with some economizers in the day, and Siemens came out with a new economizer, and it is near and dear to my heart, buddy. It has potentiometers and it has dip switches. Yeah, you don't have to use a software tool to program it. They kind of de-featured it a little bit, but it's kind of like the best of the new world and the old world, Ken. And it's got some very sophisticated control algorithms in there. And one of the really, really cool features about it that I thought was it's got a smart plug and play. So depending on whether you hook up 2 temperature sensors or 1, or 2 enthalpy controllers or 1, or 2 CO2 sensors or 1, it knows that, and then it automatically puts the right configuration in there for you. So then you just get to adjust a couple of these potentiometers. It makes me feel young again, even thinking about this. And you're set and you're ready to go. So I kind of applaud them a little bit. They, I think it's a really elegant solution, and something that they de-featured. They didn't put the digital display on it, but they went back. For old guys like us, man, it's like picking up an old film camera. It just really good. So that's what I had. That's what we had on the site this week. And listen, I encourage you to check out automatedbuildings.com. Our guest this week has been Ken Otto Sinclair, a friend of the show, one of the most knowledgeable guys in the industry. And the great thing for me coming up is I'm going to be at all these same shows that Ken Sinclair is going to be at. So, buddy, we'll look forward to catching up with you then. And hey, if you're part of our community, he's friendly. He doesn't bite much. So if you hadn't met Ken yet, you definitely want to shake his hand and meet him at one of these meetings. All right.
Great.
So listen, now we're going to see how adaptable you are, Ken, because you talk about this young mindset and all. So you're going to have to do Kenny's part on the sign off here. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So at the right time, you put your thumbs up and go, indeed, Eric. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready to go? Okay, here we go. All right, there you go. That's another week on Control Talk Now, your Smart Buildings videocast and podcast for the week ending April 29th, 2019. This has been episode 313. A special thanks to our guest this week, the owner editor of automatedbuildings.com, the one to only Ken Otto Sinclair. Hey, we appreciate you tuning in. With that, remember, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and collaborate with somebody this week.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Sinclair.
That's all right.
Done, man.